Hi guys, this is Al Riley from AlRileyMusic.com. Today I'm going to show you a way to make ambient evolving vocal effects, just like in the demo you heard there. Now I'm going to demonstrate this on a house type track because this is a technique I actually recently used on a prog house track I produced. But it's going to work equally well with any kind of electronic music that has a vocal where you're looking to add an extra layer of vocal effects. So let's take a look at the live set. Okay, so we've only got audio tracks here. To begin with, we've got our drums group, so 4 audio tracks grouped together inside drums. And then we've got a bass loop. And then the final thing is this lead vocal.
The time has come to break free, leave behind restrictions.
So there's plenty of space in the track for us to add some more layers. So we're going to take that lead vocal and start making some ambient evolving effects out of that. And that could be used as an intro before the vocal or even underneath the vocal itself. All the interesting stuff is going to happen on this pink track called Vocal Effects and these 3 green return effects tracks. We'll get to those later. So to begin with, let's take a look at the Vocal Effects track here. So what I've done is just made a copy of this lead vocal clip and dumped it on the vocal effects. And then the vocal effects clip itself, I've just given it the shortest possible loop. So down here in the actual clip view, I've just made that loop length as short as you possibly can. And we're going to move that around, and that's going to create the kind of shifting throughout the vocal performance as we go through. So I'm going to launch that vocal clip and just show you how we can move that loop around to create these effects. So launch the clip. That's just looping round and round and round, that really short increment. And we can drag this around. Or a nicer way to do it for this technique is once you've got the loop selected, you can just use your left and right cursor arrows just to move around. And that's the way that we're going to perform this technique. And the amount that it moves each time you hit the cursor is dependent on your grid. So the more you zoom in, if you're on the adaptive grid, the more you zoom in, the more lines you get. So then you can just move in smaller increments. So it depends how quickly you want your vocal moving through. You can change the zoom level. I normally find that 1/64 or 1/128 is a good place to be for this technique. So next up, we really want to layer some effects on top of these stuttering vocals to make it really kind of ambient and create a big kind of thick layer. So I've created 3 effects return tracks. One's with a really long reverb, so that's this one here. So we've got our 14-second reverb. That little EQ there is just kind of tidying it up a little bit. On my B send, I've got a filter delay. And on C, I've just put a beat repeat just to create some kind of rhythmic variation there. So let's take a listen to what these sound like. So let's just get my vocal looping around again. Let's get a nicer loop. And then I'm going to turn up send A, and that's going to send it to my reverb. So a nice long reverb there. You can move that around again with the cursor keys. And then let's turn that one off and turn up my send B to see what the delay's doing. So another kind of layer there. And you see I've sent the signal from my delay is also being sent to the reverb. So we're getting extra kind of dimension and loads of reverb on the delay as well. Which I'm also doing to my final send, which is my beat repeat. So let's hear what that sounds like. So just creating a few more kind of rhythmic variations there, and also sending all of its output, well, a lot of its signal to the reverb as well there. And what I've done is I've panned the beat repeat slightly to the right, filter delay slightly to the left, so we've got a nice panorama of these effects. And then the reverb is just coming straight down the middle. So altogether we get a nice rich stereo effect there when we jump around in the vocal. we get this really nice evolving effect. And now I'm going to play back my vocal effects with the drums and the bass, and just kind of experiment, you know, move around within the vocal recording and just find which particular bits of it tonally work well. And bass. And you can hear that against the bass, you know, certain tunings of some words work well, others don't, so let's just move that around a little bit. That note there is working quite nicely. Some nice little bits in there. Another little shortcut, if you hold down Option or Alt and click in this area, that's just going to jump your loop to wherever your cursor is. Let's try here. So I'm zooming in a little bit more just so I can move with smaller increments. And I can go backwards and forwards here, so if I like that note, I can start going back to the left. And as you can hear, some bits kind of work better than others, but we can kind of fine tune that later on. So far everything has been done in the session view, which is great if you want to perform these kind of vocal effects. But eventually, if you want to actually get this into the track that you're producing, you want to move all of this stuff into the arrangement. So Live's nicely set up to do that. So all we're really going to need to do is hit the record button up here, play around, do our performances, and then that's going to translate it all into the arrangement view, and then we can start tweaking, start editing, and just start kind of perfecting all of the little performances we've done. So in Live 9, as soon as you hit record, it starts recording. If you want it to behave in the old way, like Live 8, then you can shift click on that, and it's going to wait till you actually launch a clip before you start recording. So that's what I've done there. And let's just launch our clips. So everything we're doing now is being recorded into the arrangement view. So I find myself some nice bits of vocal. Let's see, I think over here was a good one. So I'm holding down Alt and moving that around. Maybe make a slightly bigger increment, and let's find somewhere else. And if I hit tab now, I'm going to jump into the arrangement view and I can see all of that recorded exactly as it was performed. I'm going to hit our back to arrangement button there, just so we can actually hear what's in the arrangement. And you can see every time that I've moved my loop, it's created a new clip here in the vocal effects. So that's just translated all of those loop movements into editing. So this means that we can perfect this. You know, if there's things that go on too long or if we need to take out, then we can do that here. So let's say we probably don't need that as the intro. Let's give ourselves a 4-bar intro with the bass and drums. Let's move all this back. So that starts on bar 5 now. And we'll just do some quick edits just so you get the idea of what I'd do next. So we don't need any of that, that's pretty much silent. So I'm just shift selecting all those clips at the same time. That's quite nice so far. And this bit here just kind of stays on the same bit for too long, so let's just make that a fraction of what it was, maybe just half a bar, and then we'll grab the rest of this and bring that up next door to it. Some of those bits weren't working so well, so I might just delete all of that, shift these up and see how that's working. So I reckon that's enough. So let's just get our lead vocal as well. So I'll just grab the lead vocal from the session view, drag that over. And there's kind of two ways of using this technique. You can either have it as a nice little intro before your lead vocal drops, like this. So we'd maybe do some automation on the volume. So let me just bring up my track volume there. And let's say when the lead vocal comes in, then we don't really want to hear so much of the effects anymore, so we could do something like that.
The time has come to break free, leave behind restrictions.
Or we could just have the effects just in the background as a nice little layer, so when my vocal comes in, all those effects can be underneath it, and they could be, you know, even quieter than they are now. So let's just get that playing.
The time has come to break free, leave behind restrictions, addictions, be unfettered, undefined.
So hopefully that's just given you some ideas about how you can use this technique just to kind of thicken up your vocal sounds and to get some kind of experimental evolving sounds to your vocals. And just a couple of other little things I haven't mentioned yet. If we look at the effects processing I've done on the vocal effects track, there's a few things there. So I put a compressor on first of all, more or less just to even out the level of the vocal, just so some bits aren't too loud and other bits, you know, get swamped out. So the compressor is just going to mean that everything follows a more consistent level. The EQ, I didn't need this vocal to be as bright as the actual main lead vocal. So I've put a high pass filter and a low pass filter just to give that kind of like band restricted sound. And then finally this auto pan just kind of gently pans the vocal a little bit left and a little bit right. You see I've reduced the amount to 33% there just so it's not fully left and right, but it is giving a little bit of movement from left to right and back again. So thanks for watching this tutorial, hope you found it useful. For more free tutorials, come over to AlRileyMusic.com, and for updates, follow me on Twitter at AlRileyMusic. Thanks and see you next time.